A lot of black people don't know that they are the American Indians or the Native Americans. They was on the land before the other people who claim to be Native Americans. You know, the ones that, with the brown skin and the straight hair. No, before them, it was black people. But a lot of the black people, they mixed in with the other ones. That's why sometimes you see like a black Indian or something like that. You notice that their hair is different because some of them, they mixed in with the other Native Americans or the ones who call themselves Native Americans. So not all black people came from Africa on ships. There was already black people on the land for thousands of years before the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, before the other Native Americans, the ones with the straight hair and brown skin, the ones that look like the Indians of today. Before they even got to the land, black people was already there. They came to the land and seen black people there.
Peace, family. Aquani, we gusta na toma, kanitam pa. Gaskata squamson, that is to say, good day, family and friends. How are you doing? It's Two Hawks. I'm actually on my way back home from the city. We were in New York on Monday, holding an event with the New York Regional Office of the U.S. Census Bureau. Went very well. Shout outs to the brother Norris and Phoenix Moon for coming on through. Joseph as well, brother from the Cree Nation. And of course, all of the representatives and tribal members that are associated with Fauna for making the trip. And of course, our good friends and colleagues over at the U.S. Census, the New York Regional Office. Appreciate them for their continual partnership with Fauna as we try to work out all of this classification stuff that's going on. So in Fauna's research, and in our exploration and in all of our workings and things of that nature, we've actually come to realize that there's at least 5 different classifications of Indians. At least 5. First being, of course, the federally recognized Native Americans. And when I say Native Americans, I'm utilizing that terminology in terms of Indians who engage in that process and then their status changes. I'm not talking about the quote-unquote $5 Indians and all that. My family down in South County in Rhode Island, the Narragansett Indian tribe, were one of the first tribes to be federally recognized. Definitely Indians. Some of the first Indians that Europeans encountered. But, they got federally recognized, so their status changed from Indians to Native Americans. So you got your federally recognized Native Americans. Then you got the state recognized Native Americans, right? Because there's a lot of state recognized tribes out there. That's what the ones in Virginia were that just recently got federal recognition. They were state recognized. And once again, Native Americans, because once you get recognized, there goes that sovereignty. So your federal Native Americans, your state Native Americans. Then you've got your urban Indians. And this is what most of us are who are aware of and identify with our Aboriginal indigenous heritage, urban Indians. These are the Indians that are in urban areas, just like it sounds. There's a whole classification, and that was very interesting for us to find out about a year and a half ago, the whole urban Indian status. And y'all should definitely check into that. So that's 3 so far. Your 4th is your misclassified or unidentified Indians. And there's a lot of us out there as well. These are the individuals who can't prove any connection to Africa, but are calling themselves African Americans, blacks, Negroes, whatever the case may be. But they're like in that in-between phase, because they're not saying that they're indigenous, even though a lot of them are. I'm not going to say all of them are, but a lot of them are. And they also can't prove any connection to Africa. So you're stuck on this place called Africa America. So that's the 4th one, right? And then the 5th one, and I've been seeing this one around a lot lately, and this is what I really wanted to talk about, is the status of Indians not taxed. That's in Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, I believe. Could be Article 2, Section 1. One of them. Someone check into that, but Indians not taxed. And this is the one that I really wanted to speak about, because I've been seeing this going around, and a lot of people are saying, well, Indians aren't taxed, and that's not true, if you look at what the U.S. law states, right? So they did the Indian Citizenship Act. I forget the exact year. I'm sorry, I'm driving right now, so I'm trying to concentrate and drive and talk to y'all. But check that out, the Indian Citizenship Act, and what they pretty much said was that all Indians are citizens. Now remember, these things that they're stating are commercial claims, so they don't need to prove anything. We need to get out of that mindset that they need to prove anything. They're making a claim against us. And if we're not properly rebutting that claim, well, then that claim stands as fact and law. So when they said all Indians are citizens, at the time, our people were actually thinking that that was a good thing to be. Some of our family here from the Narragansett people and a couple other tribes ended up moving when they were pushing all the Indians west, and then ended up in a place in Wisconsin called Brothertown. So you'll see a lot of the names. One particular who I'm connected to is the Niles line, and the Niles line is a very solid line out in Brothertown. One of my grandfathers, James Niles Jr., was out there, and his father as well, James Niles. Very well acknowledged and respected Indian folk that were out that way. But they ended up actually going for U.S. citizenship, thinking that it would help them out, and it actually did them a disservice. So a lot of us moved out that way and became citizens, and as a result of being a citizen, like any other U.S. citizen, you're subject to whatever the U.S. says. So when we're talking about Indians not taxed, really what we're talking about is Indians who are still in a capacity as tribal citizens and foreign nationals to the U.S. a status which Fonda refers to as a foreign national, non-resident inhabitant and tribal citizen of. So I am a tribal citizen. Nisu Wishiwanag is a tribal citizen of the Mashipag Nahigansett tribe, of the Nahatik Nahigansett nation. That's what makes Nisu an Indian not taxed. His relationship with his tribe that pulls him out of that whole conversation about having been civilized. Because especially up here in the Northeast with the tribes who didn't move, and this is probably going to apply to most of the tribes or the Indians that stayed in their lands and got misclassified, because that's what happened. You could either go to a res and be an Indian, or you could stay where you were at and get reclassified to something other than being an Indian. And you better shut up about being an Indian if you stay, because they're either going to come and take your kids from you, right? Throw them in an Indian school. They're going to come if they're the clan. If you're in clan territory, they're going to come and snatch your land for you and hang you up on a tree and all of that sort of stuff. So they're going to put the fear into you of their God. I'm not going to say the fear of God. I'm going to say the fear of their God, because I don't know what God they was worshiping. It ain't the creator that created me. But they're going to put the fear of their God into those populations so that they keep their mouth shut about who they are.
And you could tell that he knows a lot about his culture as far as him being an Indian. The Black American Indians.
So a lot of us, because we didn't rebut that claim, you're under that status of being an Indian. And with that status of being an Indian, of course, they shored that up by making sure we got birth certificates, social security numbers, driver's license, all of these things that we were getting when we were unaware of what had transpired, that was shoring up their argument and their claim that we're actually their citizens, right? So all of us in our commercial juristic persons, the ones that, the colonized names that were given, the English names, those are all enumerated somewhere, right? Those are all shown to be a part of the U.S. trust and U.S. citizens. So yes, most certainly, I can go on to census as Raymond L. Watson and fill out that I'm an American Indian, but in their system, Raymond L. Watson has already been enumerated. He's already been marked down. He's already locked down in their system as being what he is. So for those of us out there that are just looking to reclassify to our proper status, you have to understand just how deep this game goes. It's not as simple as, oh, well, I'll just change my status and then I'm not subject to the, that's not true. That's not true. So when we're looking at this Indians not tax status, once again, this is going to be solely reserved for the Indians, the Aborigines, but the ones that they called Indians, because that's what they call the Aborigines of North and South America, Indians. They're the ones who are going to be Indians not taxed are going to be the ones who have maintained their tribal connections and citizenship with their separate tribal nations, and who have been acknowledged by treaties that the U.S. is beholden to. So when I'm talking about Nahigansett people, right, and this is the interesting thing about Nahigansett people, since 1643 there's been a separation politically between the Nahigansett peoples of the southern part of what is now called Rhode Island and the ones that are in the northern part of what is now called Rhode Island, and my people come from the northern part. So there's been a political division since 1643, but my people are acknowledged in treaties with the British Crown, with the Dutch, and with all of these different people. Verrazano, when he came here in the 1500s, bumped into Poconokeets and Nahigansett and was like, oh, these people are beautiful. So we're acknowledged in these documents and treaties and things of that nature that predate the formation of the U.S., which is why the Moorish claim that all of this land is a Mexican under Morocco is totally false, because our people were creating treaties with the British Crown that said nothing about Morocco, and we didn't have any treaties with Morocco. So that whole argument's gone. But when we're talking about Indians not taxed, it has to be Indians who are in that status. Now, once again, Raymond L. is enumerated in the system as being what he is. And absolutely, Raymond L. is going to reclassify over so that it's on record that Raymond L. is an American Indian. But what's going to pull Raymond L., who is the juristic person that was created fraudulently, into the Indian not taxed status is the fact that Nisu Wishiwanag exists. And Nisu is a tribal citizen of the Mashipag Nahigansett tribe. That's the only place that Nisu exists on paper. When that name was birthed commercially, Nisu Wishiwanag, it was birthed by the tribe and the tribal trust. So therefore it is owned fully and wholly by the Mashipag Nahigansett tribe and tribal trust. There's no argument that any U.S. entity could make to say that Nisu was under their jurisdiction and that they created him. Raymond L., absolutely. Raymond L. Watson, absolutely. Birth certificate, all of that. But Nisu Wishiwanag from the trust. So it is this separation and creation of the tribal trust, which is what will pull people out of that regular Indian status and into Indians not taxed, if that's the route that you're looking to go. You can't just say I'm an Indian, you can't tax me. You have to look at what the laws say. And you have to also look at the fact that a lot of us have literally been colonized and quote-unquote civilized. And all I look at as civilization is this colonization. When they were saying civilized, they meant colonized. So when they say you're uncivilized, they meant you're uncolonized. That's the way I take it. But most of us have been colonized. Most of us were thinking that we were African Americans, black people, colored folk. What's the saving grace in that? Well, it's the fact that it was all done fraudulently, right? We were forced into these positions. We were terrified into not, our ancestors were terrified into not sharing with their lineage who they were. So all of us are operating under these statuses, is that a word, statuses, but they were fraudulently placed upon us. So we have the right, and this is where A-drip and undrip and all those come into play, we have the right to reclassify to who we actually are, because we did not make that transition voluntarily. It was forced upon us, and it was forced upon us by individuals who knew what they were doing when they forced it upon us, knew exactly what they were doing when they forced it upon us. So it's fraud, and we can't be held liable or forced to take on the damages from fraud. And if we are who we say we are, then we have the right to be that. Now, I'm going to tie this into the census in a minute, right? But I just want to finish up this fact. The only way that you're going to be able to get to this Indians Not Taxed status is if you get together with your bloodline family, identify exactly where your people were prior to the U.S. colonization, and then form the trust. And that's the only way it can be done. You cannot form a band. You cannot say, oh, well, all of us were misclassified, so we'll all get together. And because then you're not tying back to a specific land base, and you're not getting together with the rest of your tribal members. You don't have a government, you have a band. That's what a lot of these pan-Aboriginal groups would be classified as by law, bands, because there's a bunch of different Indians from a bunch of different tribes who are together. And you cannot form a band and then say, well, we're going to have a land claim here, because the people that are from that land have a stronger claim than you. They are a tribe, you are a band. Some of their tribal members might be there, but that doesn't overtake or is not superior to the claim of the bloodline people who have been there. You can't run off with another group and they say, well, I'm from there too, and I'm going to bring all of these other people here because I'm from there and I'm with these other people. This is ours. No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. So any interest or thought about going Indians Not Taxed, right? It all is going to have to start with you getting back with your family.